Well, this whole time, they're still trying to gear up for the case. The case still has not started. And although Young Thug has the best lawyer in Georgia, the majority of these guys have public defenders.
Yeah. Little Rod in particular, go on.
Exactly. And I guess for the entire RICO case, they're only getting paid $15,000.
Right.
And I remember we had this guy called the lead attorney. He's a lawyer out here who, we do interviews with sometimes. He basically predicted they're going to go bankrupt trying to try these cases because it's going to go on for 6 months or a year. I mean, this is like below minimum wage. I think one of the lawyers said she's got to do OnlyFans in order to get by.
Like DeWilliams, that's Lil Rod's lawyer. And she just 2 weeks ago asked to be taken off the case again because of the lack of payment. She's a relatively young lawyer. Like there's this, like part of it is because there were 28 defendants and each one needed a lawyer that was separate from the others to negotiate whatever they needed to negotiate on their own. There's a public defender's office. There's a conflict defender's office for when you've got two. And for everybody else, they just pick whoever they can. You sign up saying, I will represent somebody. And they come to you and say, you're our second level conflict person. Will you take this case? She didn't know. She said, yeah, I'll take that one. And oh. Yeah, she's got student loans. This is the only case she can represent. Yeah.
Okay, and then in August, the YSL co-founder, YSL Mondo, he gets arrested by the feds where they found guns and drugs at his house. Now, was he already given a plea deal?
He wasn't charged.
He wasn't even charged.
He was not charged. He was not part of this case.
Wow.
And honestly, there were big questions about whether or not he was a co-founder of anything related to this. Frankly, I think he may have been overstating his role in things. Because there's publicity in it. At one point, Fonnie Willis had been representing him when Fonnie Willis was in between work. She had left the district attorney's office, was working as a private defense counsel and represented that guy. And people made a sort of a thing about that. Like, how could she be prosecuting YSL when clearly she has a relationship with YSL Mondo, which is just the internet talking at us. I honestly don't think YSL Mondo is that important.
Got it. Okay. And then a couple months later, YSL Polo enters the courtroom. And this is the guy that was doing all types of weird, erratic stuff.
Yeah. Mostly it was a put on. My understanding is that he has a psychiatric problem, but it's not anything like what you were looking at in court, that was an exaggeration.
It was an act.
It was an act. And the judge wasn't buying it. Neither was the other judge buying it. But everybody sort of looked around and what are we getting out of keeping this guy in the case? Is there any value? Do we get more? Because he's already been convicted of a murder charge.
Right. So he got convicted of murdering Xavier Turner.
Yeah.
In 2020.
Right. So he's never getting out of jail.
Yeah.
So why charge him?
Right.
What do you get out of that? Because you're not going to get him to testify to anything. And even if you did, would you believe anything that guy said on the stand? No. So they yanked him.
Right. So basically, he gets all his charges dropped in the YSL RICO case because it was just a waste of time.
Right.
So then by November 2nd in 2023, all the jurors are seated in the YSL RICO case after nearly a year.
It is the longest period of jury selection in Georgia history.
How many potential jurors were there?
More than 2,000.
Sheesh.
More than 2,000. I went through this at one point. 1 out of 500 registered voters in Fulton County, million people in Fulton County, were called to be a juror in that case.
Right. And the problem with getting jurors to be on this case is that they're telling people that it's going to be, 6 months to a year?
Yeah.
And you'd be hard-pressed to get a working person to agree to take a year out of their life. How much you get paid as a juror?
I believe it's $25 a day.
$25 a day.
Yeah, never mind a year.
That's like $3 an hour.
2 weeks is a hardship for most people.
Yes.
And I saw like dentists getting out of this thing for hardship. And I'm like, you've got 300 grand in the bank.
Yeah.
Nope, my practice will die. And she was right. Her practice would be dead if it was done. So basically you get a jury that's filled with government employees whose salary are still going to get paid. People who are working for large government contractors, like who have an agreement with the government to pay when their folks are covered, retirees or folks who are still living with their parents. And I don't believe there are any of the latter.